Right, this is a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, again in 1992, right in the beginning of 1992, Yud Gimel Shvat. Now, like we've said so many times, time and time again, that the whole purpose of the creation and the whole, which can only be carried out by the Jews, and the whole purpose of Judaism and the whole purpose of Chabad took it on themselves to do this, is to bring Moshiach. Moshiach is the purpose of the world, it's the purpose of Judaism, it's the purpose of all creation. Moshiach will be a Jew just like Moses, that he will, like Moses did big miracles, as Moshiach is going to do the biggest miracle of all. Moses took the Jews out of Egypt. Moshiach is going to take the Egypt out of the Jews. Moshiach is going to take all the foolishness and misconceptions and the idolatry and the how do you say, the decadence and the confusion. I said that, the confusion. And the what do you say, all the addictions and the depression and the aggression from the world. Well, the world can get along really good without those things. How is he going to do it? Because he's going to reveal how precious life is and how precious God is, the Creator. And that the Creator really cares about us. And that the Creator is infinitely, infinitely, infinitely close to each one of us. He's creating us constantly. And the whole blueprint, how we can repay God for all this free gifts that he's giving us, is through the Torah. And everybody's going to want to repay God. They'll want to repay him. And if you don't repay God, what's so? You don't do it. And I mean, there'll be certain people that will be destroyed, but generally that's only the people who are the active enemies of the Jewish people. And they'll be destroyed. But ideally, God doesn't, the goal of Judaism is not that people should be destroyed, or there's going to be a big war. There's been enough wars. And the idea is that Yifnu Elecha Kol Rishei Haaretz, all the evil people in the world will turn to you. And so it gets more down into details. These are really nice philosophical ideas. But the Moshiach is the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said many, many, many times that he's just an extension of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, Rebbe Yosef Yitzchak, that he is the Moshiach of our generation, has all the signs of Moshiach, all the criteria of Moshiach, doing the job of Moshiach, trying to wake the world up to the Creator, to the Jews, to the Torah. And the Rebbe is just carrying out the previous Rebbe's mission and job and task in the world. And that is, like we said, to bring Moshiach. Now, the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, he passed away. He passed away in 1950. 1950, which that's what, 52 years ago? That's yes. Is that right? Yes. Pay. No, I'm sorry. 70 years ago. 72 years ago. 72 years ago. As the Rebbe is speaking over here, this is Tavshin Nun base. This is 40 years after the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe passed away, 42 years after the previous. And this was just months. The Rebbe said this very short time before the Rebbe himself had a stroke and was unable to speak for a year and a half, whatever. And all the Chabad Hasidim, the Rebbe would come out. They would all say the Rebbe is the Mashiach. The Rebbe is the Mashiach. Melech Mashiach. This was for a while, but the purpose of Mashiach again, is not just like our team won and our guy is the head. He's a person that's going to change the whole priorities of the whole entire world. Whole priorities of the entire world. And there won't be fear, unnecessary fear anymore. We'll reveal the love of God, and it'll be easy to love one another. Okay, but the previous Rebbe passed away on the 10th day of Shvat, and that's going to be, this year it comes out on Wednesday. And back then, when the Rebbe spoke this, it was also Wednesday. came out on Wednesday. Now, the day when a tzaddik passes away, it says all of his energy that he had his whole life is now made available to everybody in the generation that wants it. The problem is to want it. And that's what we're trying to achieve here, to know how to desire this energy, this goodness, this love, so that we'll also be able to perceive it and internalize it. Aleph, Shvat, how the 10th day of Shvat is, which is the day of the passing away of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, that he's the leader of our generation, B'yom Ravi, it was on Wednesday, the 4th day of the week, in many years, and also in this year. So this implies many things. Number one, the Kol HaRosh, Malas Yom Ravi, what is the unique quality of the 4th day of the week, Wednesday? Shabbat Nidlo Amoros, this is the day, if you look in the creation of the world, that on the 4th day of creation, that God put the two luminaries, the sun and the moon. Look in the Bible. It says, Vayom Revi'i, and God created the Ma'ora Gadol, it says, Orota Gadolim, God created the two lights. Natlo means he hung them up in the sky. Shnei Ma'oros Gadolim, the two big lights. Ba'od, Begamze Ikra, and this is the main thing, that it's called Kami Shabbata. It says that the 4th day of the week, this is the day which is called beginning of preparation for Shabbos. It's before Shabbat. Kiva Shabbat Matchilim, that we begin the preparations of the Shabbat, which comes after it. Then in this year, there was an elevation to the Yom HaHilula, on that Shabbat, there is an elevation to the day when the previous Rebbe passed away. Now, here's a very important thing. Time. It's one of the elements of creation, right? There's time and there's space. Time and there's space and there's the life, spirit. The interaction between these things, the spiritual, the physical, the connection between the spiritual and the physical is time. That's the connection. Okay, why this is, maybe we'll talk about it at a different time. But nevertheless, that's very important. God creating the world, he created time. As soon as he created the world, it was before he created the world and after he created the world. So there was already time. And so it is every single moment. God creates the world anew, every instant, because there's always before, now, and then there's now. Before, now, that's time. Before and now. So it's already time. So time is very important. And time is divided. There's a book called Sefer Yetzirah. So in this book, it's talking the secrets of creation. So time is divided. The principle of time was way before time started. The number 12, this corresponds to 12 letters of the different letters of the Hebrew alphabet. There's 22 letters, and it says that 3 of them are doubles and 3 of them are called mothers and 7 of them are called doubles. And then 12 of them are called simple. And from these 12 simple ones come the idea of the 12 months of the year and the 12 hours of the day. So time is a very, very special thing. And especially we see in Judaism that the days of the week are 7, which that makes no sense whatsoever. Why there has to be 7? Who says there isn't even such a thing as the week? A week. According to science, there's no such thing as a week. According to astrology, astronomy, whatever you want to call it, there's no such thing as a week, right? There's a year, there's a month, that you can tell by the stars. You can't tell by the stars which day of the week it is, or even if there is such a thing as a week, which day is Shabbat. But God created the world in 7 days, and strangely, even in these countries that they never heard of the Torah, they do things in 7 days, right? I have a friend that went and he learned karate or something in Japan before he was religious, and they would work out for 6 days and they would rest the 7th day. And they would say that somehow or other this is implanted into nature, that there's one day that's a special day. And also the Jews have a lot of holidays and things like that. Not only that, every day is special. The Rebbe said you should make a special celebration for your birthday every year. The day you're born, special day. The day that person passes away, his relatives are supposed to make a special occasion for that day. Remember the life of the person. time, dates are very, 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 very important in Judaism. As it's just as important as soul is, and as spirit, spirit and place. So the most important day of the year, I mean, really the Independence Day of the Jewish people, that's really Shabbat. Shabbat, we're independent of the world. Every week, we're connected to the Creator. Shabbat is only for the Jews. A non-Jew is not supposed to keep Shabbat. A non-Jew is not even supposed to make his own day of Shabbat. It's Shabbat is oti lochem. It's a sign only to you, to the Jews. That and learning Torah. It's Keramulgash, like it says in the song of the every day there's a special psalm we say. It says Lachuna Ranana Katan. It says we begin the three sentences of the Mizmor Lachuna Ranana that we say when we take in the Shabbat. Shebazem Mudgash. It's also stressed Shehashlemos the Yom Hilula, that the completion of the day that the previous Rebbe passed away, which came on the fourth day of the week, this is the preparation for the Shabbat which comes after it. Eloi Nosaf Mitzad Malaso Miyucheres. Also, what's special about this Shabbat which comes after Yud Shvat? The Rebbe is saying this speech on the Shabbat which comes after the commemoration of the passing of the previous Rebbe. The previous Rebbe passed away on the 10th day of Shvat. And this Shabbat that the Rebbe is speaking is the 13th day of Shvat. So he's speaking about the specialness. Every day is special, but every day has its unique thing that we can learn from the Torah, how it relates to Shabbat, etc. This Shabbat, the Shabbat that comes after the Shabbat, I'm sorry, that we read this Torah portion of Bashalach that we learned about, and we'll talk about this also at 3 o'clock, come on 3 o'clock. This is called Shabbat Shira, the Sabbath of song, because we read in the Torah the song the Jewish people sang after they crossed the Yam Suf. This is a thing of Lachuna Ranana. This is also similar to what we say when we take in the Shabbat. Let us go and sing Rina Vashira. This is the song of the fourth day. This is the main completion of the receiving of the Shabbat, is being the happiness, the joy, the song. This is even more what it says, that shir, this whole idea of singing, is especially to Shabbat. Mizmor Shir Liyom Shabbat. One of the Psalms of King David. He made a special song for Shabbat, and we say this in each one of our prayers in the daytime, in the day and in the evening of Shabbat. It says, Befirush, B'mamra Mishnah, in Masechet Shabbos, it says, Kol Bali Ashir Yotzim B'Shir, V'nim Shachim B'Shir. It's talking over there about song. Everyone says, it's not talking about song, it's talking about animals, and a shear means a little ring that they put in their nose or around their neck, whatever. But it means song. How does it mean song? So the Mishnah over there talks in Shabbat. It says that your animal is not allowed to do work for you on Shabbat. If you have an animal, it can't carry things for you on Shabbat. It's forbidden. Your animals are not allowed to work for you on Shabbat. Your machines can work for you, but your animals can't work for you. Right? You can set your whatever it is, alarm clock or the lights in your house to go off at a certain time. Your clock can work for you, but your animals are not allowed to work for you. So it says, so an animal can't like carry out a chain or something like that. But if the animal always goes out with a chain, or he always goes out with like a ring, the shear means a ring. A ring goes through its nose, goes around its neck. If it's a bali shear, if it's an animal that always goes out with this ring all the time, called bali shear, animals that always go out with this ring, yotzim b'shir, are allowed to go out with this ring around their neck on Shabbat. V'nim shachim b'shir, and you can even draw them with this ring around their neck. Okay, but it's a, what do they call it? A play on words. Shir means this ring around the neck, but it also means a song. So it says anyone who knows how to sing, his soul will go out with song, and he'll be drawn. He can draw godliness down with song. It's a play on words. Midrash is full of things like this. Shakal aliyah, that anytime a person raises up from one level to another spiritually, that a person goes from one previous level to a higher one, it's always by means of song. And therefore, aliyah sa'olamos, this elevation of the world on Shabbat is by means of a song. The Yesh Lomer, we can say, She'ikar aliyah, the Yom Shabbos, that the main elevation of Shabbat by means of the song is on this particular Shabbat, which is the coming Shabbat, which is what's called the Shabbat, the Sabbath of song. This is the Shabbos where we read, in the daytime, we read the song that the Jews sang on Yom Suf. When we mention Shagam, B'shar Shabbatot, this is drawn to the rest of the Shabbatot. When we say, moving from this, we can understand also to read in regard to the elevation of the day that the previous Rebbe passed away. This is, like we said before, this is a revelation of light. The day a tzaddik passes away is a revelation of all the light and the goodness and the love that he gathered up his whole life to everyone in the world that wants it. Shebiyom Hilula Nasa Aliyah, that on the day of the passing away, there is an elevation which is incomparable to all the other elevations that happened before it. She'ikrum, that the main thing is, B'yom Shabbat, it's attached to the idea of song, Shabbat Shir. So again, the whole idea of song is supposed to be, songs are used for improper things, but we can see just a simple thing, right? I used to be a barroom singer a long time ago, before I became religious. People go to the bars because they're miserable. People go to bars because they're miserable, they're depressed, they're angry, they're whatever, they're confused in the world. They go to the bar, things get better. They go, take out drink, take out this. But the main thing in the bar, there is always a band. The band plays music. It's a main feature of a bar. There's some places where that's the only feature of the bar. They have a band that plays music in the bar. What in the world has one got to do with the other? Why do you have to have music in a bar? Why? And if they don't have a live band, then they have the music being played, but a live band is better. Why? Because music elevates you. Music takes you out of whatever situation you're in, no matter how low you are. That's why people go to the bar. They go, and it elevates a person. And especially a person that understands a little bit or appreciates a little bit classical music, right? That you hear a beautiful thing, it elevates, it takes you to another world. That's what a song is supposed to be. Ideally, that's what's called holy songs. There's holy songs. There's songs which are totally, how do you say, the opposite of holy, evil songs. There's evil music there's just regular music, normal music. You can take it and change it. You can make you can sing songs of Judaism from it. But then there's holy songs. There's holy songs written by holy people. Special, holy, gifted people that can write holy songs. It's not we're talking about popular music. It's holy. And this elevates a person. A person sings it, a person that he has to appreciate it a little bit, like any type of song. But it appreciates, right? Elevates the person, raises him up. And this raises a person up, not just another level of the creation, so he feels a little more harmony and life beauty, but it gives a person, opens up a door to the creator. A person feels his soul more. That's the idea of song. Now, Shabbat is a day that's holy in itself, so you automatically, it says you get an extra soul on Shabbat. And the whole idea of Shabbat is singing. That's the idea of the elevation of Shabbat. And you open Shabbat with this song that you sing, right? Mizmor Shir with Lachunu Ranana Hashem, a song. This coming Shabbat is the Shabbat after the 10th day of Shvat, the month of Shvat, which is a tremendous elevation. That's the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, whose name was also Yitzchak, means to be happy. And Shabbat itself is an elevation, but this coming Shabbat is the Shabbat when we read the song the Jews sang when after they crossed the sea, and therefore this Shabbat is called the Shabbat of song. Inyan Nosaf, an additional thing. So all these songs together, the coming Shabbat, if we appreciate it, if you don't appreciate it, then it's nothing. That when the 10th day of Shvat falls on Wednesday, this is the completion of the day of the passing away of the Rebbe, which comes on the Shabbat afterwards with the Shabbat Shira. This is the whole entire idea of the completion of Tu B'Shvat. What is Tu B'Shvat? Tu B'Shvat is the first. It's called the how do you say, Rosh Hashanah, the New Year's Day for trees, for fruit trees. Tu B'Shvat is the day that the trees get blessed. B'Yom Sheni, this is going to be on the second, not this week, but next week. This is one of the 3 days which are considered to be continued in Shabbat. So Shabbat includes the 3 days before it and the 3 days after it. So this coming Wednesday is going to be connected to the next Shabbat. And this coming Wednesday is the 10th day of Shabbat. And 2 days after Shabbat is the holiday of trees, the blessing of trees, which that requires a little bit of explanation itself, but nevertheless, there is such a thing. In addition to that, it says that on the 15th day of the month, that the moon is full, and the moon is full of the month of Shvat. Hariu also, it's the beginning, the first day, the Yom Rosh Hashanah. It's the New Year's Day for trees, for fruit trees. That's the 15th day of Shvat. So if so, we have right in a row 3 very, very powerful blessings that come to us if we want to accept them or not. We have the 10th day of Shvat, which is the red day that the previous Rebbe passed away, and all of his work and blessing and love is revealed every year in even a greater way to everybody that wants it. After that comes the Shabbat of song, which that song itself is an elevation. And right after that comes the 15th day of Shvat, which that's the New Year's Day for trees. What's that got to do with us? We'll find out. It's known that all of the holidays of the year, more than the Rabbanan, even the holidays which are from the rabbis, like this Tu B'Shvat, that we're talking about, the New Year's Day for trees. This is a rabbinical thing. But Kulam, all of them have an attachment, a connection. The Otam, a Parshot, they are connected to the Torah reading that occurs in them. So if so, we can attach all these holy things together. The 10th day of Shvat, when the previous Rebbe passed away, this Shabbat, which we sing the song that the Jews sang when they crossed the sea, the 15th day of Shvat, which is 2 days after Shabbat, connected to Shabbat. Let's connect this all to this week's Torah reading. Because the Torah reading, we're reading the words of God in God's creation in the world. And this week's Torah portion is Parshat Bashalach, the Torah portion when God split the sea. And also the Torah portion which we'll read in Mincha of this coming Shabbat, which is Yitro. That's the Torah portion which is on Tu B'Shvat that we begin. That's Parshat Yitro next week, that we read it on Mincha of this week. Okay, first of all, let's understood one thing which is common between Bashalach, which is the Torah portion of this week, and Yitro, the Torah portion which we read on Mincha of the coming Shabbat, which is next week. And Yitro is the special holiday, is the special Torah portion where we read about how God gave the Torah to the Jews. This is a preparation of the giving of the Torah. Okay, in Parshat Bashalach. Now, again, I just want to say this again for the 200th time. The only religion, the only group, the only philosophy, the only historical race, whatever you want to call it, that claims that such a thing happened, and even more that they claim they're based on the idea that all of the Jewish people were taken en masse from Egyptian captivity, 3 million people that were taken through some desert, the sea split for them. They got to Mount Sinai. God was raining bread from heaven, water from a rock. At Mount Sinai, God himself personally, face to face, spoke to all of the Jewish people. Not just to a big prophet, not just to a chosen few, to every single Jew. God spoke to all of them. And this is all the topic of this week's Torah portion, last week also, and next week's Torah portion. This week's Torah portion is how the Jews got out of Egypt. God split the sea, and God rained manna from heaven, gave them water from a rock. And next week is going to be the giving of the Torah. Parshat B'Shalach, this week's Torah portion, talks about the total, complete, final going out of Egypt, the splitting of the sea. If you remember correctly, last week the Jews left Egypt, but we didn't know what was going to happen this week. Paro runs after the Jews. He kicks the Jews out, and then he regrets it. And he chases after the Egyptians. It takes his whole army and chases after the Jews to destroy them. They thought they were out. No way. And they got to the sea, and the Egyptians were hot in pursuit and back of them, and the Jews looked like that was the end. That was it. Right? Nice story. 10 plagues. The Jews got out, but something went wrong. The enemy is approaching from there, and the Jews have no chance. They have no chance to stand against the Egyptians. They have the most sophisticated chariots or whatever it is. And they want revenge. The Jews have just decimated Egypt and taken out all their treasures. Right? Give the money back. This whole thing is a preparation for the giving of the Torah. When did the Jews finally get out of Egypt? After they crossed the sea, drowned the army. That's it. They were safe. And then they received the Torah. Like it says, when you leave Egypt, you will serve God on this mountain. That's B'Shalach, the final, total leaving Egypt. And next week's Torah portion is Yitro. Yitro is that not only is there the giving of the Torah, which is spoken about in the beginning, but also it talks about, I'm sorry, in the Torah, but it talks about in the beginning that Yitro, he admitted and praised the God of the Jews. He heard that there was the splitting of the sea. He heard that the Jews fought against Amalek, that we're going to talk about, which is going to be in the end of this week. And now I know that God is greater than all the other gods of the world. It says that Yitro knew all of the idolatry in the world, and he realized the God of the Jews was the greatest. And this is all a preparation for the giving of the Torah. Yesh Lomar, we can say that in let's get into detail. Shabbat Parshas B'Shalach and Yisro in this week's Torah portion and next week's Torah portion. This week it talks about the splitting of the sea and drowning of the Egyptians and being free from Egypt. In Yitro it talks about receiving the Torah. This is the preparation for the receiving the Torah. It's also included not just the going out of Egypt and the receiving of the Torah, but also it hints at the main thing, the purpose of the giving of the Torah, namely the future redemption that's going to be in the future world. In the future, by Moshiach, Torah Chadasha Mi'iti Teitze. It says that there's going to be a new Torah. What does it mean, a new Torah? Not one word of the Torah is going to change, but we'll see and we'll feel the godliness of the Torah. No one will be able to stand up and misinterpret the words of the Torah anymore. The Torah will be the same Torah that Isaiah and all the prophets they did, but it'll be a way that everyone will see God. Everyone will feel like Isaiah. Everyone will feel godliness like Jeremiah. And they'll feel godliness, the pure godliness that the prophets all talked about, that the Jewish people should return and do the commandments. And the Jewish people should return and feel the godliness which is in every word of the Torah. That's going to be the new Torah. Not only will special holy people feel it, but all the Jewish people will feel it, so it'll be impossible for them to do any more sins, idolatry and things like that. That's going to be in the future. The revelation on Mount Sinai will be permanent in every word of the Torah, permanently, for everybody, accessible, digestible. As we'll talk about, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's learn the Yom Yom this week. The Alter Rebbe, when the Alter Rebbe was 9, he learned geometry, the study of shapes, and astronomy. At 10, when he was 10 years old, he made a calendar for 15 years. When he was 12 years old, he gave a public lecture on the Rambam's laws of Kiddush HaChodesh, very complicated laws, on how to sanctify the moon, how to sanctify the month. The greatest Torah scholars that were there were overwhelmed with the genius. That's the first Rebbe of Chabad. That's what we learn in the morning. Have a good day. Hope to see you all at 3 o'clock and with Moshiach now. Shalom uvracha. Lehitraot.